So chapter 2, text 7. कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेताः यच्छ्रेयः स्यान् निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्. So Arjuna now has exhausted his possibilities. He is confused to the peak, and now he doesn't see any other way out apart from surrendering to Krishna. So, this is the point where he officially surrenders to Krishna. Sishyasteham, I'm becoming your disciple. Sishya means one who voluntarily abides by the order of the spiritual master. That is Sishya. It comes from the word Shas Dhatu. Shas means the order. Shastra also means it is controlling others by weapon. Shastra also controls by injunction. Sishya also gets controlled by the discipline of the spiritual master. So here Arjuna is voluntarily accepting Krishna. Sishyaste aham shadhi mam. Just instruct me. I am surrendering to you. Tvam prapannam. Why? Because I have been inflicted with this dosha. What dosha? Karpanya dosha. Karpanya dosha apahata svabhavaha. I am being inflicted with this Karpanya dosha. And Karpanya means, it comes from the word Kripana, which is exactly the opposite of Brahmana. And Prabhupada explains that in the purport. A Brahmana means one who knows what is the problems of life, what is the value of life, and who engages in a similar way, thus knowing what is the problems of life and how one should utilize one's body. A Kripana means miserly person. He does not spend what is in his grasp, and therefore he does not make proper use of the investment. So therefore he loses. He consumes it all and then he loses. Whereas a Brahmana invests properly. So it could be money or it could be body, the human body we have, especially it refers to that here. One who knows how to use this body for spiritual purpose. There is no point in using the body for material purpose because materially everything is destined. You cannot get an iota of happiness more than what you are destined, nor can you get more distress than what you are destined. So, to unnecessarily beat up the body, to squeeze more material happiness, it is useless. Just like a sugar cane, when you squeeze it, there is only so much sugar cane juice that comes out. There is no point in beating up. So that is Karpanya dosha. So Arjuna is clearly saying, so Prabhupada calls this as skin disease. It's a very interesting word, very strong word. Skin disease and a perplexed man. These are the words that are being used in the purport. So there is, every step there is danger in this world, and it behooves an intelligent person, a thinking person, a Brahmana, to start eradicating these problems and accept a spiritual master. And the comparison is made to the forest fire. Samsara davanala lidha loka. The people in this world are afflicted with the problems of life just like a forest fire. Therefore, we need a spiritual master. We need to submit and surrender to a spiritual master, just like Arjuna has surrendered to Krishna. So, everyone who is a thoughtful person, who is a Brahmana, should surrender to a spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master, coming in the disciplic succession from Krishna himself, not to anyone and everyone. That is the message. So Arjuna is saying, Pruchhami tvam dharma samuda cheta. Please, I'm asking you, Pruchhami, I'm asking you to instruct me about this proper dharma. I am now bewildered in dharma. My heart is bewildered. Dharma samuda. I have become a muda. So please instruct me. What is nice? What is good? Yat shreyaha syat. What is good? What is beneficial for me? For sure, nishchitam bruhi. Tanme sishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. So one of the devotees was saying, he was in a Sunday feast, and a doctor friend visited the temple, and he called him aside and asked him to speak to his relatives. So their relatives, the doctor's relatives, had come to the temple, finding some solace and peace. And the doctor requested this devotee to speak to them after the Sunday feast. And the doctor said that they are in severe mental agony because their youngest son died in an accident recently, and they are very traumatized by all that. And so this devotee goes and meets this family, and the father, he explains how his son died. Basically, their son, he had gone to a picnic with his friends, and they were trying to be adventurous. They went to the riverside and were trying to do all kinds of adventurous things. And just at the nick of a moment, he slipped and fell down, and that's it. He got dragged down by the stream, and he was lost, and he died. And he was just 18. He was just growing up nicely, nice boy, bright future ahead, all hopes on the child, and suddenly, boom, it hits their family like a thunderbolt. And so this devotee hears sympathetically, and he gives some solace from Bhagavad Gita philosophy. He shows sympathy, becomes empathetic, and they would ask some philosophical questions, and he answers them. And some of them, after that, they seem to be consoled, and some of them would be still shedding tears. But what is striking similarity to this situation is the situation that is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam in the case of the great elephant, King Gajendra. So Gajendra, he thought he was the most happiest person in this universe. He was the king of elephants, he had many wives and children, and he was having an excursion. He was touring this in this at the base of the Sumeru mountain. There is this great lake. There's a beautiful courtyard, gardens, and he was just having an excursion and fun. And he was enjoying the sporting in the water. And suddenly we know what happened. The material nature does not let anyone to live happily, peacefully. Anything can happen at any time. Padam padam yad vipadam. The scriptures say that every step actually there is danger. We don't know what is going to happen at what time. So this crocodile suddenly came and caught the feet of Gajendra, and initially Gajendra thought that he would just shake him off. because after all he was the powerful king elephant. But the crocodile would not let it go. And there ensues a furious battle. Gajendra is trying to fight the crocodile. Crocodile is fighting the Gajendra, is not leaving the foot. And all the people surrounding Gajendra were helpless. So Bhagavatam also says in this context that we try to acquire all these material assets to protect ourselves. It could be money, savings, or relatives, social network, or our muscles. Dehapatya kalatradishu atmasainyeshu asatsvapi tesham pramatto nidhanam pasyannapi na pasyati. So we acquire all these things. Our body, we try to build it strong. Apatya, our children. Kalatra, our wives or spouses. Adishu, relatives. Whatever it is. Atma Sainyeshu, we consider them to be our soldiers who can help us in the time of need. But they are all called as Asat. Asatsu api, even though they are Asat, we try to rely on them. Tesham pramatto nidhanam pasyannapi na pasyati. So out of foolishness, even though we are on the path of destruction in this material world, even though everyone in front of us is undergoing these tribulations, we think that we will not undergo the tribulation. So the Bhagavatam advises the only real shelter is the Supreme Lord. Samashtritaye padapallavaplavam mahatpadam punya yasho murare bhavam buddhir vatsapadam param padam 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 yadvipadam natesham. So if you take shelter of the Supreme Lord, this bhava ambudhi, this ocean of distress, becomes as small as water contained in the footprint of a calf. So we have this Goshala. So the mother cow is pregnant, and the calf is going to come in a few months, next 4 or 5 months. And when it does come, you will see how small the calf is and how small the footprint of the calf will be. It is not even noticeable. And how much water can it contain? So that is the power of the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. That is the only shelter. And that shelter is attained, is available to us in the form of a bona fide spiritual master. It doesn't matter what kind of background you have. The most sinful background also. Kirata, Hunandra, Pulinda, Pulkasha, Abhira, Shumbha, Yavana, Khasadaya. All these sinful class of people are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. And a path for their deliverance is mentioned. Ye nyecha papa yadapashraya shraya Shuddhyanti tasmai prabhavishnave namaha. Because the devotees of the Lord carry the potency of Vishnu, Prabhavishnave, the pure devotee, by taking shelter of a pure devotee, all this class of people can become delivered. So this is the message being given in this verse. A sane man understands the tribulations, underlying dangers, and comes to the shelter. Just like Gajendra, what did he do? After trying for 1,000 years, the war and the battle ensued for 1,000 years. And at last, after trying every possible way, he became exhausted. Because in the water, crocodile gets more power and elephant loses more power. And finally, he gave up and he surrendered to the Lord. And then the Lord did come. And of course, in our case, we want to surrender to the Lord through the spiritual master, to the spiritual master. And the Lord does come to help, even though we may not be able to perceive. Or the Lord will send his representative. Or in some way or the other, the help will come. Just that we have to become faithful and eager to receive that help. So many Westerners, when Prabhupada came, They were in this path of confusion. The hippie movement, the Vietnam War, the so many unrest situations in the Western world. They were taking to drugs. They were not satisfied with the materialistic way of life. And suddenly there appeared this alternative. And one such devotee is initiated named Mohan Gopal Prabhu. He shares his memory. So he used to be a street vendor in 1976. He was selling some things for his living, and he was disgusted with material life. He was always looking for answers. He had always had many questions from his childhood, but never got satisfactory answers. And somehow or other, because of the devotees doing book distribution, he gets this magazine, Back to Godhead magazine. And then he would read that magazine, and he would become more curious, because the magazine obviously covers all inquisitive questions about Krishna consciousness, our original spiritual nature. And then he he visits the temple nearby. He calls the temple, he visits the temple, and he encounters a devotee named Loka Guru Prabhu, and he tells him that he wants to read more books. Where can he get more books and magazines like that? And then obviously the devotees are very eager to sell all the collection. And then this Mohan Gopal Prabhu, he buys the whole collection, whatever he had the savings, he just buys the whole collection. And then he would be told that Prabhupada would be visiting, the first part of July, when Prabhupada will be there for a month. And so this person goes back, he studies all the books, and his thirst for knowledge, his thirst for, his inability to answer these questions for so long is being answered now. And then he, after finishing everything, he would come back just before Prabhupada leaves that place, just two days before Prabhupada leaves that place. And then the moment he enters the temple, the Prabhupada also would be entering the temple, and the Darshan Arati time, and then this beautiful song is being played, that the famous Darshan Arati song, Govinda Madipurusham. And then he becomes spellbound by hearing that song, and he would just sit and observe what is happening, the way they offer obeisances, the way Prabhupada talks, points in the lecture, everything gets captivated. He thinks that this is so cool. He's never experienced anything in his life like that. And Prabhupada would be passing out these cookies, prasadam, and lecture, devotees chanting and dancing. And he says that the devotees jumping while dancing is like jackrabbits. They were touching the ceiling almost, and almost the feet were never touching the ground. And so he becomes very impressed by looking at all this, and and he decides that he would soon wind up his shop and join the temple. And he does that. He does that eventually. His whole life gets transformed, and he uh, becomes very endearing to all the devotees eventually, and does a lot of service. He still does a lot of service, Mohan Gopal Prabhu. So that is just one example how uh, a spiritual master comes. He's available every time. He is available. It is not that there are times when the spiritual master is not available. He's always available, and any sincere person who is trying to find solution to the problems of life, can take advantage of such a spiritual master. And here Prabhupada also explains how Arjuna understood it from Krishna. We should also follow similar example, how Arjuna submitted himself. And some unscrupulous commentators make a distinction between Krishna within and without. They say that Krishna's body is there, but there is something within Krishna that is superior to Krishna. But we should not be misguided by all those. There is no difference between Krishna within and without. He is a completely spiritual person. There is his body, his soul, himself. There is no difference. Krishna is a complete spiritual self. So we should not make those distinctions and follow the instruction, follow the path given by Arjuna. And even though Arjuna is one of the most important persons materially, just like Sanatan Goswami also. When he went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is said in Madhya Leela, Tabe Sanatan Prabhur Charane Dhariya Dainya Vinati Kare Dante Trinalaya. And then he says, he basically took a blade of grass within his teeth and went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in those days, the blade of grass, if you hold it within your teeth, it is like you are accepting a very humble position in front of the other person. You are taking the position of a grass. So he took that. And then he says, Nicha jati nicha sangi patita adham kubishaya kupe padi gunainu janam. He says, he clasps the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he says, I was born in a low family and my associates are all low class men. I am myself fallen and I am lowest of men. And indeed, I have passed my whole life fallen in the well of sinful materialism. So in Madhya Leela, it comes in 20th chapter. So this Sanatan Goswami actually was born in a very high class family. But because of association with this Muslim kings and community, he thinks he is fallen. And so therefore we should follow a similar example. It doesn't matter what background we are, we should consider our present situation. Everyone is laden with problems, and it behooves everyone to accept a humble position and accept a spiritual master. And that is the instruction given in this verse. So fortunately we have Srila Prabhupada. We don't have to search elsewhere, anywhere. His shelter is available through his institution, through his instructions, through his books. So we should jump right in and get into his boat. So any other questions, comments on what we discussed today?